If you spent 42 years behind the wheel, you don't feel the road with your eyes anymore. You feel it through the seat of your pants and the soles of your boots. You know a solenoid is shot before the check engine light even blinks, and you can smell trouble a mile before it hits your high beams. That night in Laredo, Texas, the air was thick as bad gravy and tasted like wet dust and diesel. I was supposed to retire in a week. My Peterbilt 389, a rig I called Old Scar, was shining like a new dime under the terminal lights, and this was supposed to be my easy sunset run to Chicago. But when the dispatcher, a twitchy kid named Marty who couldn't look me in the eye, handed me the BOL for a sealed reefer and said, "Bill, don't stop for anything, not even the law, until you're across the Oklahoma line," I knew this run didn't smell like a paycheck. It smelled like a cage. Something inside that trailer was drawing enough power to keep the cooling unit screaming, even though the manifest claimed medical parts. The seal on the door wasn't plastic. It was heavy lead with a stamp I hadn't seen in 4 decades of hauling. I pulled onto I-35 as the sun committed suicide over the cacti, turning the sky the color of a fresh bruise. The engine growled true, but my gut was doing 360s. The terminal coffee was battery acid, and the cab smelled like my old tobacco and worn leather. The first sign of hell came near San Antonio. Usually, the CB is a mess of chatter. Drivers cussing, flirting with waitresses, or calling out bears in the bushes. That night, Channel 19 was dead. I dialed the squelch, checked the antenna, nothing. Just white noise. Then, a voice cut through the static, cold, and mechanical. "Unit 38, stay in the left lane through Austin. The right exit is closed for maintenance." I didn't have a unit number. My handle was Gray Fox. I checked my mirrors and saw 2 blacked-out Tahoes hanging back 5 car lengths. No running lights. Just 2 shadows ghosting me on the asphalt. Texas at night is a long, lonely snake. You only see what the flickering cones of your headlights allow, and everything else is a vast, hungry void. I buried the needle, feeling the turbo whine under the hood. The DOT, the Department of Transportation, is usually on you like white on rice for logs or lights. But when I blew past the way station near Georgetown, I saw something that turned my blood to slush. The scales were open, but not a single rig was pulled over. Instead, there were men in dark tactical gear, and that wasn't Texas Highway Patrol tan. They were holding short-barreled rifles. One of them tracked me with a high-intensity spotlight, blinding me for a split second. I didn't lift. I flipped the high beams and roared past, the heavy trailer swaying as the wind caught it. 5 minutes later, my burner phone, the one I kept only for my daughter, buzzed in the cup holder. No caller ID. The same voice from the radio said, "Bill, you missed your inspection. Pull over at the Flying J in Round Rock. That's an order." I didn't stop. I knew every crack in this slab of concrete. If guys with rifles call themselves the law but hide in the dark, they ain't the law I recognize. Near Waco, the sky split open. A Texas-sized gully washer hit, the kind where the wipers just move the ocean around and the asphalt turns to greased glass. In the mirrors, the shadows were back. This time, they turned on the searchlights. The white glare hit my rear glass and washed out the cab. They were riding my DOT bumper, trying to pit maneuver 40 tons of steel. One SUV pulled alongside my drive tires, and I saw a passenger roll down the window with a Glock in his hand. I didn't panic. 40 years on the road washes the fear out of you, leaving nothing but cold math. I yanked the wheel hard right, letting the weight of the trailer whip toward them. The SUV swerved, caught the wet grass, and spun out into the median like a toy. The second chaser braked hard, and I bought myself 3 miles of breathing room. The hours bled into a tense, vibrating blur. My hands were locked on the wheel, my knee aching from holding the throttle pinned. Near the Oklahoma border, the rain turned into a fog so thick it felt like driving through a bowl of milk. I was passing a derelict rest area, a place that had been closed since the 80s, when I saw her. A girl stood under the one flickering light pole next to a mangled Chevy. Her face was a mask of blood. She wasn't waving or screaming. She was just staring at the road with a look of pure, hollowed-out despair. My brain screamed, "Keep rolling, Bill. This load is a one-way ticket. You stop, you're dead." But my boots had a mind of their own. The air brakes hissed, the tires locked, and the trailer shrieked as I brought the rig to a halt 50 yards ahead of her. I grabbed my heavy maglite and jumped out. The cold air hit me, smelling of wet pine and ozone. "Get in! Move!" I barked. She could barely walk. As she got closer, I saw the jagged red marks of zip ties on her wrists. She wasn't a car wreck victim. She was escaped cargo. They're coming. she whispered, collapsing into the passenger seat. Her name was Sarah, and she was shaking so hard I thought she'd break. I slammed the door, notched the gears, and let the Cummins engine roar. That's when 3 sets of high-intensity LEDs cut through the fog behind us. These weren't SUVs. These were heavy-duty pickups with brush guards, hunting trucks. "What's in the box, kid?" I asked, pushing Old Scar for everything she had. The turbo wasn't whining anymore. It was screaming. "It's not parts," she said, wiping blood from her eyes. "It's servers. The whole network. Names, offshore accounts, GPS logs for the shipments. They're moving the archives because the feds are raiding the hubs in Mexico." I was the bookkeeper. I saw the wrong file. They were going to deliver me with the cargo in Chicago. The puzzle clicked. I wasn't a driver. I was a garbage man hired to haul away the evidence. And now I had a witness in the cab, and a confession in the back. The CB crackled back to life. A different voice this time. Gravelly. "Mean, old man. Give us the girl and leave the keys in the ignition. You got 1 week to retirement. Don't turn it into 5 minutes." I looked at the girl, then back at the road. I smiled. Maybe I was an old dog, but I'd hauled steel through the Rockies and black ice and delivered blasting caps to Appalachian mines. I knew this road better than those punks knew their mothers. I keyed the mic. "Listen here, son. My daddy taught me that if you take a load, you deliver it. But he also taught me to take the trash to the dump. I'll see you in Oklahoma City." I knew a spot near Mile 40, an old way station shut down years ago because the ground had shifted. But I also knew the local marshals used it as a staging ground for sting ops. I started playing chicken. I blacked out my lights on the straightaways, running on memory and the ghost of the moon. The pickups gained on me. One rammed my side, metal grinding on metal, sparks showering the night like 4th of July. I held the wheel with both white-knuckled hands. Then the lead started flying. A round shattered my West Coast mirror, glass spraying Sarah. She screamed and hit the floorboards. "Hold on, honey," I yelled. The turn for the old station appeared. I knew there was a steep embankment and a concrete barrier that was more suggestion than protection. I didn't slow down. I upshifted. The chasers thought I was running for the open highway, but at the last second, I slammed the trolley valve, the trailer brakes. The back end whipped around in a massive power slide, blocking both lanes in a cloud of burnt rubber and screaming tandem tires. The first pickup had nowhere to go. It tucked right under the belly of my trailer at 70 miles per hour. The impact rocked my rig like a physical punch. The second truck swerved to avoid the wreck and launched into the ditch, rolling end over end until it was just a heap of scrap. I didn't wait to see the bodies. I straightened the wheel, feeling the rear axles dragging, but Old Scar kept pulling. We hit the main drag where the city lights started to glow. 2 cars with light bars blocked the road ahead. They looked like state troopers, but I saw the play. The plates were civilian, and the light bars were magnetic. Fake heat. "It's them," Sarah choked out. I checked my gauges. Oil pressure was tanking. The radiator must have been clipped in the collision. Steam was billowing from the hood. I knew we weren't making Chicago, but we didn't have to. I knew that half a mile ahead was a federal safe house my old buddy used to brag about. "Sarah, get my ledger from the glove box," I said, eyes locked on the fake roadblock. "There's a number. Jeff Bulldog Reynolds. Tell him Bill is in the Peterbilt with a cold gift and he needs a porch to land on." As she dialed, I aimed the chrome nose of the truck straight at the center of the fake cops. They didn't think I'd do it. One guy started waving his arms, then realized I was flooring it and dove for the weeds. I plowed through their sedan, scattering plastic and glass like confetti. My radiator finally gave up the ghost. The engine let out a terminal metallic shriek, but 40 tons of momentum kept us sliding forward. We coasted another 300 yards before the real cavalry arrived. It was like a movie, only without the music and smelling of hot oil. Real black Suburbans swarmed from the side roads, sirens wailing, cutting off the last of the hunters. I stomped the floor brakes one last time, and Old Scar came to a halt, huffing out a final breath of steam. The scene was chaos. Men in federal vests, shouting, flashlights cutting the dark. Sarah was helped out of the cab, sobbing with a relief that hurt to watch. A tall man in a trench coat, Jeff, walked up to me. He looked older, but his eyes were still flint. "You're a damn fool, Bill," he said, looking at my shredded rig. "You have any idea what you're hauling? We've been chasing this paper trail for 3 years. They would have burned half of Texas to keep this quiet." "I'm just a driver, Jeff," I said, wiping the grit from my face. I got paid for a delivery. Though I reckon I'm not getting my fuel surcharge back on this one. He laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. We'll take it from here. The girl's safe, the data's ours. You did your job, Bill. More than your job. I sat on the fuel tank, watching the sun start to bleed over the Oklahoma horizon. The world was turning gray, then pink. My fingers were still twitching from the adrenaline, but my heart felt heavy and quiet. My career ended right here on the shoulder of the road, next to a dead engine and a swarm of feds. I pulled out my phone. One missed message. I opened it. It was a photo. A little girl in a pink dress, pigtails flying, laughing on a tire swing. The caption was simple. Dad, this is your granddaughter, Lily. She's 4 today. She asked when Grandpa is finally coming home. We're waiting for you for Sunday dinner. Please be safe on the road. Love you, Amy. I stared at that screen until the pixels blurred. For 40 years, I'd been looking for something on the horizon, thinking the road was my life. I'd missed birthdays, anniversaries, and first steps. I thought the world rested on my wheels. Turns out, it rested on a little girl in a backyard in Iowa. I stood up, gave the cold chrome of Old Scar one last pat, and turned to Jeff. Hey, Bulldog, I called out. You got someone who can get me to the airport? I've got a delivery I can't afford to be late for. He nodded and smiled. I got into the car without looking back at the truck. The road will always be there. It's patient and it's cold. But people don't wait forever. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in 40 years, I didn't hear the hum of the tires. I heard a little girl's laugh. The road can wait, but life won't.